Nia Caldwell cradles her infant son Isaiah in first class on a Horizon Airways flight, her smile fading as flight attendant Karen Holt snatches her boarding pass and hisses that she does not belong there. Passengers whisper, eyes piercing Nia's pride. Humiliated, she freezes, but her husband Marcus, Horizon's owner, storms aboard, grounding the plane and firing Karen. Cheers erupt, yet Karen's cold smirk haunts Nia. At home, a brick shatters their window, a note reading, "You will pay." What nightmare awaits Nia next? Before we dive into this story, let us know where you are watching from. If you stand for justice against racism, hit like and subscribe for more gripping tales of courage and defiance. Nia Caldwell sat in her Atlanta living room, Isaiah cooing in her lap, as her phone buzzed with notifications. The video of Karen Holt's venomous words in first class spreading across the internet like wildfire, amassing millions of views in hours with hashtags demanding justice trending nationwide, prompting hundreds to gather outside Horizon Airways terminal, their signs decrying racism, their chants echoing through the humid Georgia night, giving Nia a flicker of hope that her public shaming might spark change. So she opened her laptop, her fingers trembling as she typed a detailed post about the incident, recounting how Karen's sneer had pierced her soul, how the passengers' stares had branded her an outsider, and how Marcus's bold move to ground the plane had felt like a fleeting victory, her words raw and unfiltered, pouring out the pain of being told she did not belong. And within minutes her post exploded, shared by thousands with supporters flooding her inbox, some calling her a hero, others sharing their own stories of discrimination, fueling her resolve to fight back. But as dawn broke, a chilling counterattack emerged when Preston Ward, Horizon's steely chief executive officer, appeared on every major news channel, his tailored suit and calm demeanor masking a ruthless agenda, releasing a grainy edited clip of the flight, cleverly cut to show Nia raising her voice, her hands gesturing wildly, making it seem as if she had provoked Karen, the footage painting her as an aggressor who had caused a scene, not a victim of racial venom. And Ward's smooth voice declared her story a fabrication, a desperate bid for attention, his words slicing through Nia's fragile hope, turning the tide of public opinion as the protesters outside the airport dwindled, replaced by a growing mob of skeptics who believed Ward's lie, their comments online branding Nia a liar, a troublemaker, someone who had faked her pain for clout. And by midday, reporters swarmed her quiet street, their cameras flashing through her windows, their questions shouted through the door, demanding to know if she had staged the incident, their intrusion suffocating her. But the worst blow came when she checked on Isaiah, napping in his crib, only to find the nursery window shattered, glass scattered across the floor, and the crib's soft blue blanket slashed, spray painted with the words, "Fraud, go home," the violation of her son's sanctuary sending a jolt of terror through her, her heart pounding as she scooped Isaiah up, his tiny cries piercing her, and Marcus, his face etched with fury, called the police, who arrived not to help, but to question Nia, their eyes cold, their notebooks open, dismissing the vandalism as unrelated, suggesting she had enemies because of her lies, leaving her feeling exposed, cornered in her own home. Yet Nia refused to break, her resolve hardening as she contacted a lawyer, a sharp-witted woman named Carla Evans, who warned that Ward's influence stretched into the courts, the media, even the police, but agreed to file a lawsuit against Horizon for discrimination, defamation, and emotional distress. The paperwork a lifeline in Nia's trembling hands, a chance to reclaim her truth. And as Carla prepared the filing, Nia stared at the lawsuit's first page, her name bold against the white paper, believing this legal fight could restore her dignity, could prove she belonged, not just in first class but in a world that seemed determined to erase her. And she spent the day gathering evidence, screenshots of Karen's words, passenger testimonies, even Marcus's internal airline records, her focus razor-sharp despite the chaos outside, the reporters still circling, the online hate still pouring in, and by evening, Carla called to confirm the lawsuit was filed, officially pitting Nia against Horizon's vast resources, a David versus Goliath battle that felt empowering, a step toward justice. But as Nia hung up, her relief shattered when two police officers knocked, their badges glinting under her porch light, their faces stern as they handed her a summons, accusing her of fraud, claiming she had falsified her boarding pass to sneak into first class, a lie so audacious it stole her breath, their words dripping with suspicion as they warned her to appear in court or face arrest, leaving Nia clutching the summons, her lawsuit now overshadowed by this new, sinister accusation, her mind racing with the realization that Ward's reach was deeper than she imagined. His retaliation not just public but personal, systemic, designed to crush her spirit. And as she stood in her violated home, Isaiah asleep against her chest, the weight of this fraud charge pressed against her, a chilling reminder that her fight had only begun, that every step toward justice would be met with a fiercer, more dangerous counterblow, leaving her to wonder how she could protect her family when the system itself seemed rigged to destroy her. Nia Caldwell's hands shook as she clutched a coffee mug in a dimly lit Atlanta diner, the weight of the fraud accusation and the violated nursery pressing against her chest, her eyes scanning the room for Tara Jenkins, a Horizon Airways clerk, who had slid into her direct messages late last night, promising explosive evidence that could bury Preston Ward and his racist empire, claiming she had seen internal emails proving Ward's deliberate targeting of black passengers. Her message laced with urgency, offering to meet at a secluded hangar on the airport's edge, and Nia, desperate for a breakthrough after the police summons had turned her lawsuit into a trap, agreed, slipping out at midnight while Marcus stayed, with Isaiah, her heart pounding as she drove through the muggy Georgia darkness, the city skyline fading behind her, the hangar looming like a shadowed beast under a flickering street lamp, and Tara stood waiting, her nervous smile barely masking a glint of something colder, handing Nia a folder of printed emails that detailed Ward's orders to profile minority passengers, each word a dagger of validation, proof that Nia's shaming was no isolated act but part of a systemic rot. And for a moment, Nia's hope surged, imagining these documents splashed across every news outlet, forcing Ward to his knees. But as she reached for her phone to photograph the pages, Tara's smile twisted, and the hangar doors rattled open, revealing 3 masked thugs, their boots heavy on the concrete, one snarling a racial slur as he lunged, smashing Nia's phone to the ground, its screen splintering like her fleeting optimism, while another tore the folder from her hands, shredding the emails into confetti that fluttered in the stale air. And Nia's instincts kicked in, her body dodging a swinging fist, her elbow crashing into the nearest thug's jaw, pain shooting through her arm as she sprinted toward a stack of crates, her breath ragged, the thug's shouts echoing, their flashlight slicing through the darkness, and she ducked behind a rusted propeller, her fingers brushing against a discarded tablet one of them had dropped, its screen glowing with a single open file, a memo from Ward to a known hate group, promising funds to silence black activists, the words searing into Nia's memory as she stuffed the tablet into her jacket, her pulse racing as she crawled through a ventilation duct, the metal scraping her knees, the thug's curses fading as she emerged into a gravel lot, sprinting toward her car, her lungs burning, the night swallowing her fear. And she drove home, the tablet her only lifeline, her mind replaying Tara's betrayal, the clerk's loyalty to Ward a calculated stab that left Nia questioning who she could trust. And as she pulled into her driveway, the sight of Marcus's airline office across the street stopped her cold, its windows shattered, glass glittering. Under the moonlight, the walls defaced with red spray paint screaming, "Go back to where you came from." The slur cutting deeper than the brick that had hit her home, a second violation in days, this time aimed at Marcus's legacy, his dream of an airline that welcomed all. And Nia stumbled inside, finding Marcus staring at the wreckage, his fists clenched, his voice low as he admitted the vandalism had cost them their last investors, Horizon's sabotage bleeding them dry. And Nia clutched the stolen tablet, its memo her only weapon, but the weight of Tara's deception and the office's destruction crushed her, her isolation deepening as she realized Ward's reach was a web, ensnaring her family, her allies, her hope. And yet, as she sat on the floor, Isaiah's soft breaths, grounding her, the memo's words burned in her mind, a spark of defiance reigniting, urging her to fight harder, to expose Ward's hate group ties, no matter the cost, because giving up meant letting him win, meant letting every black family he targeted lose their voice, and Nia vowed to keep pushing, to turn this betrayal into a weapon. Even as the police summons loomed, the fraud charge tightened its grip, and Ward's next move lurked in the shadows, waiting to strike with even greater cruelty. Hey YouTube fam, how does Tara's betrayal hit you? Comment number 1 if you're raging at her double cross, or if you're rooting for Nia to turn that memo into Ward's downfall. Have you ever faced a moment where trust turned to ashes? Drop a like to stand with Nia's fight against systemic racism, and subscribe to catch every twist in her battle for justice. What will Nia do with that stolen memo? And how will Ward strike back to keep his empire intact? Stay tuned to find out. Nia Caldwell's fingers trembled as she uploaded the stolen memo from the tablet to a secure cloud server, her heart racing in the pre-dawn quiet of her Atlanta home. Isaiah's soft snores a fragile anchor as she sent the file to every major news outlet. The document's words exposing Preston Ward's payments to a hate group to silence black voices. And by sunrise, the story erupted. Hashtags flooding social media, news anchors dissecting Ward's ties to white supremacists, and thousands of protesters swarming Horizon Airways headquarters, their voices a roaring tide outside the gleaming glass tower, shaking the foundations of Ward's empire, his airline stock plummeting 20 points in hours, while Nia stood at her window, watching the crowd's signs demanding justice, their chants vibrating through the humid Georgia air, a surge of vindication warming her chest, believing this could be the moment Ward's reign crumbled, that her fight might finally shift the tide. And Marcus, his eyes weary from salvaging his vandalized office, squeezed her hand, whispering they were closer to winning. But as the day wore on, a chilling retaliation struck when Nia's phone buzzed with a notification from her bank. Her accounts frozen, every penny locked away, the screen citing a court order. And moments later, Carla, her lawyer, called, her voice tight, explaining Ward's legal team had filed a countersuit, accusing Nia of defamation for leaking the memo, claiming she had fabricated it to smear Horizon, the lawsuit demanding millions in damages, a sum that would bankrupt her family. And as Nia's stomach churned, a knock at the door brought 2 Child Protective Services agents, their clipboards clutched like weapons, their faces stern as they inspected her home, citing anonymous reports of an unstable environment, pointing to the shattered nursery window and the fraud summons as evidence she was unfit to care for Isaiah. Their words a blade twisting in her gut, threatening to take her son unless she complied with weekly inspections, leaving Nia clutching Isaiah's tiny hand, her mind spiraling with the realization that Ward's influence had weaponized the system itself, turning her home into a battleground. And yet, her defiance flared, refusing to let him steal her family. So she dug deeper into the tablet's files, finding a cryptic email hinting at Ward's plan to frame her for embezzling Horizon funds, a scheme to bury her in legal ruin. And Nia knew she needed hard proof, something undeniable to expose this plot. So under the cover of dusk, she slipped into a black hoodie, leaving Isaiah with Marcus, and drove to Horizon's headquarters. The protesters gone, the building a monolith of steel and glass, its security lights casting long shadows as she used a stolen employee badge from the tablet's data to bypass the lobby's scanners. Her sneakers silent on the marble floors, her pulse hammering as she rode the elevator to the executive floor, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and power. And in Ward's corner office, she hacked his computer, her fingers flying over the keys, uncovering a digital paper trail of fake transactions, forged signatures in her name, millions siphoned to offshore accounts, proof Ward was setting her up to take the fall. And Nia's breath caught this evidence, a potential lifeline to clear her name. But as she downloaded the files to a USB drive, an alarm blared, red lights flashing, the office doors locking with a mechanical thud. And through the glass walls, she saw 2 security guards with snarling German shepherds, their teeth bared, their leashes taut as they charged down the hall. And Nia sprinted to a fire exit, the USB drive clenched in her fist, her legs burning as she burst into the parking lot, the dogs' barks echoing, their paws pounding the asphalt, saliva dripping as they closed in. And Nia vaulted over a chain-link fence, thorns from a nearby bush tearing at her skin, her body sliding down a grassy embankment, the dogs snapping at the fence, their howls fading as she stumbled into a darkened alley, her chest heaving. The USB drive her only victory. But the frozen accounts, the CPS threat, and the defamation suit loomed larger. Ward's countersuit a suffocating net, his embezzlement frame-up a guillotine waiting to fall. And as Nia caught her breath, the city's skyline glittering coldly in the distance, she realized this evidence, though powerful, was just one move in a chess game where Ward held every piece, his retaliation growing more vicious, more systemic, targeting not just her but Isaiah, Marcus, her very existence. And yet the USB drive burned in her palm, a spark of hope she refused to let die because giving in meant letting Ward erase her truth, meant letting every family he targeted lose their fight. And Nia straightened, her jaw set, knowing the next blow would be even crueler. But she would face it, for Isaiah, for Marcus, for every voice Ward sought to silence, even as the dog's distant howls reminded her that nowhere was safe, that Ward's next trap was already closing in. Nia Caldwell's heart swelled as she watched the evening news in her Atlanta living room. Isaiah babbling in his playpen, the anchor announcing that the federal investigation into Preston Ward's hate group ties had suspended him from Horizon Airways, his face absent from the corporate website, his office sealed, while Carla, her lawyer, called with electrifying news that the defamation countersuit was faltering. Judges rattled by the leaked memo, and Nia's discrimination lawsuit was gaining momentum with two new witnesses, former Horizon employees, stepping forward to corroborate her story, their testimonies painting a damning picture of Ward's systemic racism. And outside the courthouse, hundreds gathered, their voices rising in a chant of Nia's name, their signs bold with slogans like "Justice for Nia" and "End Horizon's Hate," the humid Georgia air crackling with their energy, spilling onto social media where millions shared her story, her face a symbol of resistance. And Nia, emboldened, felt a rare lightness, believing this could be the turning point, that Ward's empire was cracking. So she organized a community rally at a historic park near downtown, a chance to unite Atlanta's black neighborhoods, to amplify their voices against Horizon's oppression. And Marcus, his eyes bright despite the strain of rebuilding his vandalized office, helped her plan, renting a stage, securing permits, his faith in her unshaken despite their frozen accounts and the looming CPS threat. And on the rally day, Nia stood before thousands, the park a sea of faces young and old, their cheers washing over her as she spoke of her shaming on the plane, of Ward's memo, of the system that tried to silence her, her voice steady, her words igniting the crowd, their applause a thunderclap. And for the first time in weeks, Nia believed victory was within reach, that her lawsuit could topple Ward, restore her family's safety, maybe even save Marcus's airline. But as she raised her fist, a deafening explosion tore through the park's edge, a food truck erupting in flames, glass and metal shrapnel raining down, screams piercing the air as dozens fell, blood pooling on the grass, the crowd scattering in panic. And Nia, frozen, saw paramedics rush in, their radios crackling with reports of 20 injured, 3 critical. Her mind reeling as police swarmed, their eyes locking on her, not as a victim, but a suspect. And within hours, news channels blared a new narrative, orchestrated by Ward, now free on bail, claiming Nia had planted the bomb to frame Horizon, his lawyers producing a forged manifesto in her name, calling for violence, the headlines branding her a terrorist, the same crowds that chanted her name now spitting venom online, their comments accusing her of betrayal, of endangering lives. And Nia, her world collapsing, fled with Marcus and Isaiah to a rundown motel on Atlanta's outskirts. The neon sign, flickering, the room reeking of mildew, her phone dead to avoid tracking, her lawsuit now a distant dream, the CPS threat a tightening noose. And as she sat on the sagging bed, Marcus's face ashen, he revealed the final blow. Horizon's sabotage had bankrupted his airline, their last contracts canceled, their employees laid off, Ward's influence choking their livelihood, leaving them with nothing but the clothes on their backs. And Nia's chest tightened, the rally's hope shattered, her name now synonymous with terror, her family's future in ruins. And as she rocked Isaiah, his tiny hands clutching her shirt, a knock at the door made her freeze, her pulse hammering as Marcus cracked it open, revealing a stranger, a wiry man in a hooded jacket, his voice low, slipping her a burner phone with a whispered warning, "Ward is coming for you," before vanishing into the night. And Nia stared at the phone, its blank screen a void, the stranger's words a chilling echo of the brick that had crashed through her window, the vandalism that had scarred her home, the fraud charge that had cornered her, each blow worse than the last. Ward's retaliation no longer just personal, but catastrophic, turning her into a fugitive, her rally a trap, her victory a lie. And as sirens wailed in the distance, their red and blue lights flashing through the motel's thin curtains, Nia clutched the burner phone, her mind racing with the weight of this new reality, knowing Ward had orchestrated the bombing to bury her, to paint her as the villain, and the system, from police to media, had swallowed his narrative, leaving her hunted, her family broken, her hope a flickering ember. Yet even in this darkness, Nia's defiance stirred, refusing to let Ward erase her truth, because giving up meant abandoning every family he targeted, every voice he silenced. And as she hid in the motel's shadows, the burner phone her only lifeline, she braced for Ward's next strike, knowing it would be crueler, more devastating. A blow designed to break her spirit, but Nia vowed to fight for Isaiah's future, for Marcus's dream, for the justice she still believed was possible, even as the sirens grew louder, the hunter's net tightening around her. Nia Caldwell crouched in the dim motel room, the burner phone's weight heavy in her pocket, its cryptic warning echoing as sirens faded outside, Isaiah's soft breaths mingling with the hum of Atlanta's distant traffic, her fugitive status, a suffocating reality after the rally bombing pinned her as a terrorist, Marcus's Airline now a bankrupt shell, their lives upended by Preston Ward's ruthless orchestration, and with CPS looming and their accounts frozen, Nia knew hiding was no longer enough. So she slipped out at dusk, Marcus staying with Isaiah, her hoodie shielding her face as she navigated back alleys, the city's pulse a mix of neon and despair, to meet a contact the stranger had texted about, a hacker named Jamal Pierce, who waited in a graffiti-streaked basement, his laptop glowing, his eyes sharp with defiance, claiming he could crack Horizon's servers to expose Ward's next move, his voice low as he shared his own story of being fired from Horizon for questioning their racist policies, and Nia, wary after Tara's betrayal, saw truth in his clenched fists. So they worked through the night, Jamal's fingers dancing over keys, bypassing firewalls, until they unearthed a chilling plan. Ward's scheme to gentrify Atlanta's black neighborhoods, buying up land through shell companies, evicting thousands to build luxury condos. The EI, documents detailing bribes to city officials, each page a gut punch revealing Ward's vision of a city cleansed of her community, and Nia's blood boiled, imagining her neighbors, her mother's street, erased. So they planned a public expose, Jamal rigging a website to leak the files at dawn. But as they finalized the upload, the basement door exploded inward, splintered wood flying, 4 mercenaries in tactical gear storming in, their rifles gleaming, one shouting a slur as they tossed a Molotov cocktail, flames erupting across the room, the laptop sparking, and Nia grabbed Jamal, shoving him toward a back exit, her lungs burning as smoke choked the air. The mercenaries' boots pounding behind, their gunfire grazing her shoulder, pain searing but adrenaline pushing her forward, and she dragged Jamal through a rusted hatch, collapsing in a vacant lot, the safe house now a blazing inferno, its glow lighting the night sky. But Nia's relief shattered when her phone, reconnected briefly to check on Marcus, buzzed with a foreclosure notice. Ward's bank allies had seized her mother's house, the modest bungalow where Nia grew up, now boarded up, her mother displaced to a shelter, a calculated blow to break Nia's spirit. And as she and Jamal hid in a storm drain, the city's underbelly damp and cold, their clothes singed, Nia's mind raced, the gentrification plan her only weapon. But Ward's mercenaries were relentless, their radios crackling as they fanned out across Atlanta. And in a desperate move, Nia lunged at a lone mercenary scouting nearby, wrestling his radio free, her knee slamming into his chest, his grunt muffled as she fled, the device hissing with Ward's voice, cold and precise, ordering, find her family, make them suffer. The words a dagger in Nia's heart, her mother now homeless, Marcus and Isaiah in danger. The stakes no longer just her survival, but her entire lineage. And as she and Jamal crouched in the drain, the radio's static a grim reminder of Ward's reach. Nia's shoulder throbbed, her mother's loss a fresh wound, the safe house ashes a symbol of her dwindling options. Yet the gentrification files burned in her mind, a chance to rally Atlanta, to expose Ward's greed, and she clutched the radio, its weight a promise of retaliation, knowing Ward's next move would be deadlier, his mercenaries closing in, his plan to erase her community a ticking clock. But Nia's resolve hardened, refusing to let him win. Because surrender meant betraying every family facing eviction, every voice he sought to crush. And as the drained shadows swallowed her, Jamal's eyes met hers, a silent vow to fight on. Even as Ward's order to target her family echoed, a chilling promise of worse to come. Yo, YouTube squad, how does Ward's ruthless gentrification plan make you feel? Comment number 1, if you're furious at his attack on Nia's community, or if you're cheering her defiance against all odds. Ever felt the system turn against you like it's doing to Nia? Smash that like button to stand with her battle against injustice, and subscribe to catch every heart-pounding twist. With Ward targeting her family, what desperate move will Nia make to strike back, and how will his mercenaries tighten the noose? Tune in next to find out. Nia Caldwell's breath hitched as she and Jamal huddled in the storm drain, the stolen mercenaries' radio silent now. Its last transmission, Ward's order to target her family, looping in her mind, the damp concrete chilling her singed clothes. Her mother's foreclosure a fresh scar, Isaiah and Marcus still in the motel, vulnerable, while the gentrification files on Jamal's salvaged USB drive burned with potential, a weapon to expose Preston Ward's plan to erase Atlanta's black neighborhoods. And despite the mercenaries' ambush that torched their safe house, Nia's resolve held firm, so she and Jamal crept through the city's underbelly, emerging near a shuttered TV station at 3 in the morning. The Atlanta skyline a distant glow, and Jamal, his fingers steady despite their burns, hacked the station's broadcast system, overriding its signal with their expose. A looping video of Nia's voice narrating Ward's scheme, the USBs, documents flashing on screen, maps of targeted neighborhoods, emails to corrupt councilmen, bank transfers to eviction firms, each frame a nail in Ward's coffin. And as the broadcast hijacked every channel across Georgia, Nia's face, bruised but unbowed, became a rallying cry. The city erupting by dawn, thousands flooding downtown, overturning cars, smashing Horizon's billboards, their rage a wildfire that shut down streets, news helicopters buzzing overhead, capturing the chaos. While Ward's allies, city officials named in the files, scrambled to deny involvement, their press conferences drowned out by chants of Nia's name, and for a fleeting moment, Nia, watching from a boarded-up bar's TV, believed this could break Ward, that Atlanta's uprising might force justice. But as the riots swelled, a vicious counterattack landed. Nia's phone, risked briefly to check on her family, lit up with a news alert. Her sister Lena, a nurse who had stayed neutral in Nia's fight, was arrested for drug trafficking, a fabricated charge. Her mugshot plastered across screens, her hospital scrubs, replaced by an orange jumpsuit. And worse, she was hospitalized after a suspicious collapse in custody, now under armed guard at Atlanta General, the report hinting at Ward's influence, a deliberate strike to crush Nia's spirit. And Nia's knees buckled, Lena's kind eyes haunting her. The sister who had bandaged her childhood scrapes now a pawn in Ward's game. And with Jamal urging caution, Nia refused to wait. Slipping into the night, her hoodie pulled low, the hospital's stark lights looming as she scaled a fire escape. Her shoulder wound throbbing from the safe house gunfire, and inside, she navigated sterile halls, her stolen mercenary radio crackling with police chatter, guiding her to the security room, where she looped the cameras with Jamal's pre-rigged code, her hands shaking as she disabled the feed, the screens flickering to static. And she reached Lena's room, finding her sister unconscious, an IV dripping, 2 guards outside, their radios buzzing. But as Nia slipped inside, her foot grazed a sensor, triggering a piercing alarm, red lights flashing, the guards shouting, and Nia grabbed Lena's chart, spotting a forged tox report pinning drugs on her, proof of Ward's frame-up, and she stuffed it into her jacket, sprinting for the stairwell, boots pounding behind her, the hospital now a maze of locked doors. And she burst onto the roof, the city's chaos sprawling below, police sirens wailing. But as she vaulted to an adjacent building, sniper scopes glinted from a nearby tower, their laser dots dancing on her chest, bullets cracking the air, one grazing her arm, blood soaking her sleeve. And Nia dove behind an air unit, her lungs burning, the chart clutched tight, her sister's life hanging by a thread, and she scrambled across rooftops, leaping gaps, her sneakers slipping on gravel, the sniper's shots echoing, until she slid down a drain pipe, landing in a trash-strewn alley, her body aching, the chart her only victory. But Lena remained trapped, hospitalized, guarded, her condition unknown. And as Nia stumbled into the shadows, the riot's distant roar a grim backdrop, Ward's frame-up of Lena felt like a guillotine, his retaliation no longer just targeting Nia's reputation, but her family's survival. The hospital alarm a trap to draw her out, the sniper's proof he would kill to silence her, and with Marcus and Isaiah still in hiding, her mother homeless, and the gentrification plan now public, but Ward still free, Nia's public victory felt hollow, the city's uprising a spark that could fizzle if she faltered. And yet the chart in her jacket, its forged details a lifeline, fueled her defiance. Because letting Ward win meant abandoning Lena, meant letting every evicted family lose their home. And as Nia caught her breath, the sniper's laser still vivid in her mind, she knew Ward's next blow would be even deadlier, a strike to exploit. Her exposed family, her dwindling allies. But she gripped the chart, her sister's name a vow to keep fighting, even as the city burned, the hospital's alarm still ringing in her ears, and the weight of Ward's unchecked power loomed larger than ever. Nia Caldwell's legs trembled as she staggered through Atlanta's shadowed alleys, the stolen hospital chart tucked inside her bloodied jacket. Lena's forged tox report her only proof of Ward's frame-up, the sniper's bullets still ringing in her ears, her arm throbbing from the graze. But the city's riots, sparked by her broadcast of Ward's gentrification plan, offered no refuge, their distant fires casting an eerie glow as she sought a new hiding spot. Her mother homeless, Marcus and Isaiah in a motel, Lena trapped in a guarded hospital bed, and with CPS circling and her lawsuit teetering, Nia's every step felt like defiance against a system rigged to crush her. But as she crossed a deserted lot, tires screeched, a black van skidding to a stop. 4 of Ward's private security goons leaping out, their tasers crackling, one snarling a slur as they tackled her. Her body slamming into the gravel, the chart slipping from her grasp, and before she could scream, a hood was yanked over her head, the world going black as they bound her wrists, the van's engine roaring, driving for what felt like hours. Her shoulder wound pulsing, her mind racing with images of Isaiah's tiny hands, Marcus's weary eyes, Lena's unconscious form, until the van halted and she was dragged into a cavernous warehouse, the air thick with rust and oil. The hood ripped off to reveal Preston Ward himself, his tailored suit pristine, his smile venomous, standing before a tripod-mounted camera, its red light blinking, streaming live to Atlanta, and Nia's stomach churned as he spoke to the feed, declaring her a terrorist who had bombed the rally, framed her sister, and fabricated lies about Horizon, his voice smooth as he ordered his men to break her, and the first blow came, a fist to her ribs, pain exploding, her breath stolen as they chained her to a metal chair, the camera capturing every flinch, every gasp. Ward's broadcast meant to crush the city's resistance, to show Atlanta that defiance led to ruin. And as the hours blurred, they withheld food, doused her with ice water, her body shivering, her lips cracked, the warehouse's concrete floor pooling with her sweat. And Ward leaned close, his breath hot, revealing his latest strike. He had bribed 3 judges to dismiss Nia's lawsuit, their signatures already on the order, her legal fight dead, her hope of justice ashes, and Nia's spirit wavered, the weight of her family's suffering, her mother's lost home, Marcus's bankrupt airline, Lena's imprisonment, Isaiah's threatened future, crushing her. But as Ward taunted, calling her a nobody who never belonged, a spark of rage flared, and with a jagged nail torn from her finger, she carved into the chair's armrest. Ward will fall. The words, a silent vow, her hand bleeding, her body weak, refusing to beg, refusing to let him win. And Ward, enraged by her silence, stormed out, his men following. But as the camera's light dimmed, a faint hiss filled the room. A gas leak seeping from a rusted pipe, its acrid scent burning Nia's lungs, her vision blurring, her head lolling as the chains held her upright, the warehouse now a tomb. And she coughed, her thoughts fragmenting, images of Isaiah's smile, fading, her defiance slipping. But in the haze, a faint noise pierced the silence, a creak, a footstep, maybe a door, her heart stuttering. Was it rescue or another of Ward's traps. Her mind too fogged to tell, and as the gas thickened, her body slumped. The carved words her last act of resistance, the noise growing louder, a shadow moving in the dark, friend or foe, life or death. And Nia clung to consciousness. The chart lost, her lawsuit gone, her family scattered, Ward's broadcast still streaming, Atlanta watching her suffer, the riots faltering, her fight on the brink of collapse, and yet, those carved words burned in her soul, a promise she would not break, because giving up meant letting Ward erase her people, her truth, her son's future. And even as the gas choked her, the noise, that faint hope or cruel trick, kept her fighting, her pulse weak but stubborn, knowing Ward's next move would be even more savage, designed to bury her forever. But Nia's spirit, though battered, refused to shatter, the warehouse's walls, closing in, the shadow nearing, her fate hanging by a thread. Nia Caldwell's consciousness flickered in the gas-choked warehouse, her body slumped in chains, the carved words "Ward will fall," her fading defiance as the toxic fumes burned her lungs, the faint noise of footsteps her only tether to hope, until a figure burst through the shadows, a woman in a pilot's jacket, her face set with grim resolve, cutting through Nia's restraints with a bolt cutter. Whispering her name was Elena Ruiz, a Horizon pilot who had watched Ward's corruption for years, her own career tanked for, refusing to profile passengers, and now, driven by Nia's broadcasted suffering, she risked everything to free her, dragging Nia's weakened frame through a hidden exit, the warehouse's gas hissing behind them, and outside under Atlanta's starless sky, Elena shoved Nia into a stolen pickup truck, speeding through back roads, the city's riots a distant rumble, and Nia, coughing, her ribs aching from Ward's torture, learned Elena had a plan. She knew Ward's private server room, a fortified vault in Horizon's old maintenance hub, holding proof of his ties to a national racist network, and Nia, her voice hoarse, agreed to raid it. The image of Isaiah, Marcus, Lena, and her mother's lost home fueling her. So they parked near the hub, a concrete fortress ringed with barbed wire, and Elena, using her old pilot's badge, bypassed the outer gate, her hands steady as they slipped past sleeping guards, the air thick with jet fuel. And inside the server room, Nia's heart pounded as they pried open a locked terminal, Elena's tools sparking, revealing Ward's laptop, its files a goldmine of emails to extremist leaders, funding hate campaigns across 10 states, each word a confirmation of his empire's rot. And Nia copied the data to a flash drive, her fingers trembling, believing this could end him. But as they fled, alarms screamed, floodlights blinding, and Ward's voice erupted over the hub speakers, his tone icy, revealing his cruelest strike yet. He had kidnapped Isaiah, snatched from the motel where Marcus hid, and was live-streaming his location, a grainy feed showing Isaiah's tiny form in a crib, alone in an abandoned terminal at Atlanta's old airport. Ward's taunt clear, "Come get him or he dies," and Nia's world shattered, her son's cries echoing in her mind, the laptop data meaningless without him. So she and Elena raced to the terminal, 20 miles away, the truck's tires screeching, Nia's pulse a hammer as drones buzzed overhead, their red eyes tracking her, Ward's tech hunting her like prey, and at the terminal, a crumbling relic of rusted hangars, Nia sprinted. Inside, Elena covering her, the drone's lasers slicing the air, one grazing Elena's leg, blood soaking her pants. But she urged Nia forward, her voice fierce, and Nia found Isaiah, unharmed but sobbing, in a makeshift nursery, Ward's cameras rolling, his live stream, mocking her desperation. And as Nia scooped him up, his warmth grounding her, a drone crashed through a window, its blades whirring, and Elena tackled Nia to the floor, saving her. But a second drone fired a dart, hitting Elena's chest, her body collapsing, her eyes fading as she gasped, "Keep fighting." And Nia, tears streaming, clutched Isaiah, dragging Elena's body behind, a crate, the drones circling, their motors a death knell, and she escaped through a loading dock, her son safe but Elena gone, her sacrifice a knife in Nia's heart. And as she hid in a nearby ditch, the flash drive still in her pocket, Ward's voice crackled through a drone speaker. "This isn't over, Caldwell," his vow a promise of worse to come. And Nia, her body battered, her arm bleeding, Isaiah trembling against her, knew this rescue was no victory. Lena still lay. In a hospital, Marcus was missing after the motel raid. Her mother was homeless, the lawsuit was dead, and Ward's network, now exposed, made him more dangerous. His retaliation no longer just personal, but a national threat. The drones retreat a temporary reprieve. And as Atlanta's riots flickered in the distance, Nia's brief hope from the laptop data felt fragile. Elena's death a reminder of the cost. Yet her final words echoed, urging Nia to fight. Because surrender meant letting Ward's hate win, meant abandoning every community he targeted. And Nia kissed Isaiah's forehead, the flash drive her last weapon, knowing Ward's next strike would be apocalyptic, designed to erase her entirely. But she stood, her spirit unbroken, ready to face the storm, even as the terminal's shadows loomed, the drone's hum lingering in the night. Yo, YouTube warriors, how does Elena's sacrifice hit you? Comment number 1 if you're inspired by her courage or burning with rage at Ward's heartless kidnapping of Isaiah. Ever lost someone who fought for what's right? Drop a like to honor Nia's unyielding spirit against systemic evil, and subscribe to catch every gut-wrenching twist in her war for justice. With Isaiah safe but Ward's vow ringing, what desperate gamble will Nia take to expose his nationals, network, and how will he strike back? Stay locked in to find out. Nia Caldwell crouched in the ditch, Isaiah's tiny body pressed against her, the flash drive from Ward's laptop heavy in her pocket, its data exposing his ties to a national racist network. Elena's sacrifice a raw wound as the drones hum faded, their red eyes vanishing into Atlanta's smoky night. And with Lena still hospitalized, Marcus missing after Ward's motel raid, and her mother homeless, Nia knew she had to act fast, so she slipped into a shuttered gas station, its windows boarded, using a scavenged laptop to upload the laptop's files to every major news outlet, her fingers trembling as she sent emails, linking Ward to hate groups funding violence from California to New York. And by dawn, the story detonated. News channels blaring headlines of Horizon's collapse, protests erupting in 20 cities, from Chicago's icy streets to Miami's humid boulevards, millions marching, their signs demanding Ward's arrest. Social media a storm of hashtags, Nia's name a global rallying cry, and Horizon's stock crashed, its board resigning, federal agents raiding Ward's offices, his empire teetering, while Nia, hiding in a friend's attic with Isaiah, watched the chaos unfold on a cracked TV, her heart pounding, believing this leak could end him, that her fight might finally break his grip. And when organizers invited her to speak at a televised rally in Atlanta's Centennial Park, she agreed, seeing a chance to unify the movement, to honor Elena's death. So she left Isaiah with a trusted neighbor, her arm still bleeding from the sniper's graze, her ribs bruised from Ward's torture, and stepped onto the rally stage, 10,000 strong before her, their faces a mosaic of hope and rage. The cameras rolling, broadcasting to millions. And Nia spoke, her voice steady, recounting her shaming on the plane, the bombing, Lena's frame-up, Isaiah's kidnapping, her words afire igniting the crowd, their cheers shaking the humid Georgia air, and for a moment, she felt victory within reach. The nation's outcry a tidal wave that could drown Ward, but as she raised her fist, a chilling counterattack struck. Ward, desperate but unshaken, released doctored audio across every network, a distorted clip of Nia's voice, pieced together from her broadcasts, confessing to orchestrating the rally bombing, calling herself a terrorist. The sound so convincing the crowd gasped, their cheers turning to boos, fists unclenching, signs dropping, and within minutes, the rally spiraled into violence. Protesters clashing, bottles shattering, as police in riot gear stormed in, their batons swinging, and Nia, stunned, tried to explain, but the crowd's trust shattered, their shouts accusing her of betrayal. And as she fled the stage, a Molotov cocktail arced through the air, igniting a community center nearby, flames leaping, trapping Nia inside as the mob surrounded it, their faces twisted with rage, smoke choking her lungs, glass exploding from the heat, and Nia crawled through a back office, her hands burned, her body aching, smashing a window to escape, tumbling into an alley, the center's roof collapsing behind her, the crowd's roars a grim chorus, and as she stumbled away, her phone, risked to check on Isaiah, buzzed with a news alert. Marcus had been arrested for fraud, a setup by Ward's allies, claiming he embezzled Horizon funds, his mugshot flashing, his eyes hollow, the final blow to their family. And Naya's knees buckled, the rally's hope ashes, her name now a synonym for terror. Marcus jailed, Lena dying, Isaiah in hiding, her mother displaced, the lawsuit dead. And as she hid in a dumpster, drones buzzed overhead, their lasers scanning the alley. Ward's tech hunting her, his doctored audio a masterstroke that turned the nation against her. The protests now splintered, some still marching for her, others cursing her, and Nia's chest tightened. The flash drives leak a fleeting triumph, its power diluted by Ward's lie, his empire faltering but not fallen, his retaliation a guillotine, framing Marcus to break her, the burning center a symbol of her lost allies. And yet, as she clutched her burned hands, the memory of Elena's sacrifice, Lena's kindness, Marcus's faith, stirred her defiance, because giving up meant letting Ward erase her people, her son's future. And Nia crawled from the dumpster, the drones hum a death knell, her body battered but her spirit unbowed, knowing Ward's next strike would be even crueler, designed to bury her in a grave of lies. But she vowed to fight, for Marcus's freedom, for Lena's life, for every voice he silenced, even as the drones circled, their lasers locking on, the city's chaos a fading echo, and the weight of Marcus's arrest crushed her hope, leaving her alone, hunted, but resolute. Nia Caldwell's burned hands trembled as she crouched in the alley, drones circling above, their lasers cutting through Atlanta's smoky night. Marcus's arrest for fraud a fresh wound, Lena dying in a guarded hospital, Isaiah hidden with a neighbor, her mother homeless, the doctored audio branding her a terrorist. And the flash drives leaked data, though sparking nationwide protests, now seemed a hollow victory as Ward's empire clung to power. But Nia's defiance burned brighter, the memory of Elena's sacrifice and the carved words Ward will fall fueling her. So she scoured the flash drive's files on a stolen phone, finding an encrypted email about Ward's escape plan, a private jet departing from a secluded airstrip 10 miles west. And Nia, her body aching from the community center's flames, her arm bleeding from the sniper's graze, slipped through the city's chaos, the riot's embers glowing to reach the airstrip. A barren stretch of tarmac ringed by pines, the jet's engines already humming, its sleek hull glinting under floodlights. And using skills honed from sneaking into Horizon's headquarters, she climbed a maintenance ladder, prying open a cargo hatch, her breath shallow as she slipped inside. The jet's interior, a cocoon of leather and wealth. Ward's voice drifting from the cabin, smug as he spoke to an unseen ally. And Nia, heart pounding, crept closer, her phone's camera rolling, capturing Ward's confession, his words chilling, admitting he shamed her on the plane to test his profiling system, orchestrated the rally bombing, framed Lena and Marcus, and funded hate groups to keep black communities down. Each syllable a dagger, proof of his rot. And Nia live-streamed it to every platform, her signal boosted by Jamal's lingering hacks. Millions watching as Ward's mask fell. But as she backed away, a floorboard creaked, and Ward spun, his eyes locking on her, rage twisting his face, and he lunged, slamming her against the bulkhead, her phone skittering, the livestream still running. And Nia fought back, her burned hands clawing, knee driving into his gut, pain searing her ribs. But Ward was stronger, his fists pounding, blood trickling from her lip. And as she stumbled, guards burst in, their pistols drawn, one grabbing her throat. The jet's engines roaring louder, ready to take off. And Nia, gasping, thought of Isaiah, Lena, Marcus, her fight on the brink of ending. But a deafening crash shook the plane, metal screeching as the jet lurched, pinned to the tarmac. And through the window, Nia saw Marcus, freed by protesters who had stormed the jail, driving a stolen truck into the jet's landing gear, grounding it. His face fierce, the crowd behind him a sea of raised fists, their chants drowning the guards' shouts. And Nia broke free, diving for her phone. The livestream still broadcasting to millions, Ward's confession viral, his guards hesitating as police sirens wailed, federal agents swarming, cuffing Ward, his suit rumpled, his empire in ruins. And Nia stumbled out, Marcus catching her, his arms a lifeline, the crowd cheering, Atlanta's skyline ablaze with hope, news helicopters circling, reporting Ward's arrest. the nation watching as Naya's truth prevailed. Her live stream a beacon, sparking calls for reform. And as she leaned into Marcus, Isaiah's face in her mind, Lena's fight still alive, her mother's spirit unbroken, Nia felt a rush of triumph, believing justice was hers. But Ward's calm demeanor chilled her, his eyes meeting hers as he was led away, a faint smile curling his lips. No fear, no defeat, only certainty. And Nia's gut twisted, sensing a trap, a final move he had planned, because Ward never lost without a counterstrike. And as the crowd's cheers washed over her, the jet's wreckage smoldering, her body battered, her family still fractured, Nia knew this victory was fragile, the livestream a spark that could falter, the protests a wave that could break. And Ward's calm was a warning, his arrest too easy, his power too vast to crumble so fast. And yet, Nia stood tall, Marcus at her side, the flash drive's data, the hospital chart, her carved defiance all proof she had fought. Because giving up meant letting Ward's hate win, meant abandoning every family he targeted. And as the agent's radios crackled, the crowd's energy surged. Nia braced for what came next, knowing Ward's final blow would be his cruelest, a strike to shatter her world. But she was ready, her spirit forged. In fire, even as his smile lingered a shadow over her fleeting triumph, the airstrip's lights flickering, the fight far from over. Nia Caldwell stood amidst the chaos of the airstrip, Marcus's arm around her, the smoldering jet a testament to their fleeting triumph. Ward's live-streamed confession echoing in the cheers of the crowd, federal agents hauling him away, his calm smile a splinter in Nia's mind, Atlanta's skyline pulsing with hope. But her gut screamed of a trap. Lena still lay dying. Isaiah was hidden, her mother homeless, and the weight of Marcus's recent arrest, the lost lawsuit, and the nation's fractured protests pressed heavy, and within hours her fears materialized. News channels blared a shocking reversal. Ward's allies, a cabal of corporate titans and corrupt senators, had destroyed the confession footage, hacking servers to erase backups, bribing judges to declare it inadmissible, claiming it was coerced. And by dawn, Ward walked free, his release orchestrated with chilling precision, his tailored suit pristine as he smirked on live TV, calling Nia a liar who had framed an innocent man. And the public, swayed by his polished lies, turned, half the protests fizzling, online, hate surging, branding Nia a fraud. And with federal agents now compromised, Nia, Marcus, and Isaiah fled their neighbors' care, forced into hiding, their faces plastered on wanted posters, accused of obstructing justice, the family scattering to a network of safe houses, Nia alone in a cramped attic, Isaiah's tiny blanket her only comfort, Marcus in another city, Lena's hospital room now a fortress. And as Nia huddled, drones buzzed outside, their red lasers piercing the night, Ward's private tech hunting her. There were a constant threat, and in this suffocating isolation, a stranger slipped her a note, a resistance group, born from the riots, calling themselves the Unerased, had tracked her, offering alliance. And Nia, wary but desperate, met them in a derelict warehouse, their leader, a grizzled activist named Clara, revealing Ward's new plan. He was rigging Atlanta's mayoral election, funneling millions through dark money to install a puppet, ensuring his racist policies would endure. The evidence a stack of hacked emails Clara shared, detailing voter suppression and ballot tampering. And Nia, her heart racing, joined them, seeing a chance to fight back. But Ward's retaliation struck faster, his drones pinpointing her, forcing the group to flee through Atlanta's sewers. The air rank with decay, Nia's burned hands slipping on rusted ladders, her body aching, the drone's sensors buzzing above, their heat signatures tracking her, and she emerged in a storm drain, soaked, only to learn Ward's cruelest blow. He had burned her childhood church, the century-old sanctuary where she was baptized, where her mother sang hymns, now ashes. Firefighters helpless against the blaze, and spray-painted on the rubble was Ward's taunt. "You will never win," the words a gut punch. The church's loss a wound deeper than the lawsuit's death. Marcus's arrest, or Lena's frame-up, because it was her history, her community's soul. And Nia sank to her knees, the Unerased pulling her up, Clara's voice urging her to fight. But her spirit wavered, The drones hum relentless. Her family hunted. Isaiah's safety fragile. Lena's life fading. Marcus underground. Her mother broken. And the election rigging plan loomed. Ward's freedom a mockery. His allies untouchable. The confession erased. The protests splintered. And Nia clutched the unerased emails. There, evidence her last spark. But the church's ashes choked her hope. Ward's taunt a reminder of his unchecked power. His retaliation no longer just personal, but cultural. Erasing her roots, and as she hid in the drain, the sewer's darkness swallowing her, the drone's lights flickering above. Nia's resolve teetered, the weight of this reversal crushing, because Ward's release was no accident. His election plot a chess move to cement his legacy, and yet, Clara's hand on her shoulder, the unerased vow to fight, stirred a flicker of defiance, because giving up meant letting Ward erase her people, her son's future, and Nia stood, the emails a lifeline, her spirit battered but unbroken, knowing Ward's next strike would be his deadliest, a final blow to bury her in the ruins of her own history. But she vowed to fight, for the church's memory, for Lena's life, for Marcus's freedom, for Isaiah's tomorrow, even as the drones closed in, the sewer's walls tightening, and the taunt "you will never win" burned in her mind, a challenge she refused to accept. Nia Caldwell emerged from the storm drain, the unerased at her side, the ashes of her childhood church a searing wound. Ward's taunt, "You will never win," carved into her soul. The drones' hum fading, but their threat lingering. Marcus hidden, Lena dying, Isaiah in danger, her mother broken, and Ward's release, his election-rigging plan, a crushing reversal. Yet Clara's fierce eyes and the unerased hacked emails, proof of Ward's voter suppression, fueled Nia's defiance, so she rallied the resistance, their whispers spreading through Atlanta's bruised streets, organizing a massive protest to choke the city's heart. And by dawn, 50,000 marched, black, white, young, old, their footsteps a thunderclap, shutting down highways, bridges, City Hall, their signs blazing with Nia's name, "Justice for Caldwell," "End Ward's Reign." The humid Georgia air electric, news helicopters circling, capturing the sea of bodies. While Nia stood on a makeshift stage in Centennial Park, her burned hands raised, her voice a clarion, recounting her shaming on the plane, the bombing, Lena's frame-up, Isaiah's kidnapping, the church's destruction, each word a spark, the crowd roaring, their unity a wall against Ward's hate. And as they marched, Clara and the unerased hacked every major news site, leaking the election-rigging emails, documents showing Ward's bribes to suppress black votes, rig ballots, install a puppet mayor, the evidence undeniable, flooding social media viewed by hundreds of millions, sparking global outrage, protests flaring in 30 countries, hashtags trending in 10 languages, and the pressure broke the system. Federal agents, shamed by the world's gaze, stormed Ward's penthouse, cuffing him again, his smirk gone, his empire in ruins, news channels blaring his rearrest, Horizon bankrupt, its assets seized. And Nia, watching from the stage, felt a surge of triumph, the crowd's cheers a tidal wave, Marcus emerging from hiding to join her, his hand in hers, Lena's hospital guards dismissed, her condition stabilizing, their family's fight vindicated. But Nia's heart raced, knowing Ward's calm at the airstrip hinted at deeper plans, and she seized the moment, unveiling a digital archive, a platform coded by the unerased, chronicling stories of black families targeted by Ward's gentrification, profiling, and hate, from Atlanta to Oakland. Each entry a voice, a life, the site crashing from billions of views, its impact seismic, schools teaching it, parliaments debating it, a monument to resilience. And Nia spoke, her words live-streamed, urging the world to fight systemic racism, her son's future in her eyes, the crowd chanting, "Unerased, unerased," Atlanta's skyline glowing, hope reborn. But as she stepped off the stage, a burner phone buzzed, a cryptic email from an anonymous source. "The cabal behind Ward lives, national, untouchable, watching you." The words a chill, hinting at a shadow network, tycoons, senators, generals, tied to Ward's hate, their reach beyond Atlanta, beyond Horizon. And Nia's triumph wavered, the rearrest a victory, the archive a beacon. But this cabal a new beast, her family still healing, Lena waking, Marcus rebuilding, Isaiah safe but marked, her mother mourning the church. And as Nia clutched the phone, the crowd's cheers faded. The helicopter's blades a grim pulse. Ward's rearrest no end but a pause, his cabal a looming storm. And yet Nia stood tall, Isaiah in her arms, Marcus at her side, the unerased behind her. The archive's stories a shield, because surrender meant letting the cabal win, meant erasing every family she fought for, and her spirit, forged in fire, refused to bend, the email a challenge, a call to a larger war. And as Atlanta's streets pulsed with defiance, the world watching, Nia vowed to fight on, for Lena's recovery, Marcus's dream, her mother's home, Isaiah's tomorrow. Every voice Ward and his shadow sought to silence, knowing the cabal's strike would be merciless, a battle beyond her city, but she was ready. Her archive a spark, the protest a flame, the fight just begun. Even as the email's warning echoed, their eyes on her, the future a shadowed path. The story of Nia Caldwell's fight against systemic racism in Flight Attendant shames black mom and baby, then her husband grounds the plane, offers profound lessons in resilience, unity, and the power of truth. First, Nia's journey teaches that systemic racism, like Preston Ward's orchestrated injustices, thrives on silence and complicity. But courage to speak out, as Nia did through leaks and protests, can dismantle even the most entrenched power. Her persistence, despite relentless setbacks, public shaming, family targeting, and false accusations, shows that resilience is not just enduring pain, but transforming it into action. Second, the story underscores the strength of community, as seen in the Unerased and Atlanta's 50,000-strong march, proving that collective defiance can amplify individual voices against oppression. Third, Nia's digital archive, viewed by billions, highlights the importance of preserving marginalized stories, turning personal struggles into global calls for change. Yet, the cryptic email about a national cabal warns that victories are fragile, and systemic racism requires constant vigilance. Finally, Nia's refusal to surrender, even when her church burned and her family was hunted, reveals that hope, rooted in love for family and justice, can outlast despair. This story challenges us to confront racism in our own systems, to stand with the oppressed, and to build archives of truth that endure. Call to action. What would you do if faced with systemic racism like Nia? Comment below, hit like to support her fight, subscribe for more racism stories, and share to spread her truth. Thank you for joining Nia's journey. Here's to building a just world together.